Guys, welcome to the Return of the King review, the third and final part in my Lord of the Rings trilogy review. This has been a lot of fun, but much like seeing the movies every year, waiting 3 years to see the conclusion back in the day, all good things must come to an end. I'll say this is the one case where I most recommend, if you're gonna see it, seeing the extended edition, because the theatrical cut, where when I watched a Fellowship and Two Towers theatrical cut, even though I missed the extended scenes, I feel like I've seen a complete movie. The theatrical is just more complete. With Return of the King, I just feel like it's an incomplete movie theatrically. Like the showdown with Saruman at Isengard when they go to confront him at the beginning. In the theatrical cut, you just see one shot of Christopher Lee. There's a full confrontation that, spoiler alert, ends in his death. And there's other scenes too that just makes it feel like a more complete movie. Like a complete movie where the theatrical just feels incomplete. The story follows a few different sets: Frodo and Sam and Gollum with the ring and Gollum's treachery, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, who break off at one point from the Rohirrim. The Rohirrim's marching towards war against Isengard to help Gondor. Merry and Pippin get separated because the Seeing Stone, Pippin grabs it and he sees a vision of this tree burning, and Gandalf knows it's the tree of the king at Minas Tirith and that's going to be the next target, so he takes Pippin to warn them, and Pippin swears fealty to the mad steward of Gondor, Denethor, where Merry winds up doing the same thing to King Theoden. We got a lot of different story arcs going on, and Faramir has a heartbreaking story arc where we see how truly hated he is by his father, or at least his father forgets he loves him and is just directing hate towards him, to the point where after Osgiliath falls and he's addressing his father about it, he sees, in this scene's heartbreaking, you see he realizes the contempt and hatred his father has for him. And he's like, you wish mine and Boromir's places had been exchanged. You wished I had died and he had lived. And Denethor goes, I wish it. So he agrees to go with the insane nutjob's plan to retake Osgiliath, which has failed. And all he wants is his father to think better of him, and his father even tells him, he tells his father, if I should return, think better of me. Well, that should depend on the manner of your return. And it's clear he's never gonna please his father. I had a situation where I was living with a family member, and I know what that's like, that no matter what you do, it's never good enough. You can set out to run a mile, collapse from and I'm just speaking figuratively here, but collapse from sheer exhaustion one step short of a mile, and the person in question would have just looked at me and said, "What's the matter? Couldn't you have gone one more step, you bum?" So I've been there. Aragorn finally has to accept his destiny to be king in this film. For Eowyn's sake, Lord Elrond reforges the Sword of the Kings, Elendil, Flame of the West, forged from the swords of Narsil, and he meets Aragorn at the camp of the Rohirrim, and he gives him the sword, and I like it where Aragorn is at first reluctant to grab the blade before he grabs it and unsheaths it. He's a man that essentially perfect to be a king because he does not want power for himself. He only reluctantly grabs onto it because he knows if he doesn't step in, something much worse is going to happen. We got a great contrast between Denethor, Steward of Gondor, and Theoden, King of Rohan, given by no better example than with Merry and Pippin, who each swear fealty to the respective leader. Pippin, you get the sense Denethor really doesn't care for him. Denethor doesn't care for anyone under him. Where with Merry, even though he swears fealty, when it comes time for the Rohirrim to ride into battle, he gives Merry the weak excuse of it's a 3 days ride and none of my riders can bear you as a burden. And he's just doing that because he does not want to put Pippin in any unnecessary danger. Theoden is someone who cares deeply for the people under him, where Denethor only looks down to see what he's stepping on at this point. Great contrast. And my third favorite character in The Lord of the Rings, Eowyn, the niece of Theoden, gets to really shine in this. She's a character that I wouldn't go as far as to say craves battle, but she does want honor for herself. And given the fact that this may be the doom of their times, she would rather die on the battlefield than in a cage. A very understandable, masterfully acted character. And like I said, my three favorite characters in this franchise are Aragorn, Faramir, and Eowyn. Now, the Siege of Gondor and the Battle of Pelennor Fields is epic. They throw everything, and I mean everything, at you at this. There's horses, there's these elephant things, which are giant elephants. You just have to see the battle to believe it. There's even a confrontation between the Witch King and Gandalf that only ends because of the charge of the Rohirrim, which looks like it's going to turn the battle until the Harajim with their elephants attack. We get a showdown where the Witch King injures mortally Theoden, and his niece defends him, and because the thing is, a man can't kill him, she kills him. One thing I like to comment on, when you see people like covering their ears when the mount that the wraiths are on are over, in the book it talks about that fear emanates from the wraiths like a disease. So that's a visual representation. Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas go to this undead city. Backstory, there was the people of the mountains swore loyalty to Gondor, but when the need was dire, they abandoned them, so Isildur, of course, cursed them. Aragorn goes to make them uphold that oath, and when he fulfills it, they can be set free. And when they show up at Pelennor Fields, these ghosts, it's just like a wave of death. Every orc in front of them is just slaughtered. Then we get everything with Frodo and Sam. Gollum driving a wedge between them. The emotion is ramped up to finally Shelob's lair, the giant spider. Against an orc, I would go out fighting. Against a giant spider, I'd be on the ground curled up in a ball. It's a great effect and a great scene in where Gollum's ultimate betrayal happens. He even at this point successfully drives a wedge between Frodo and Sam. Eventually they get to Mordor, and the armies of Rohan and Gondor go to the Black Gates as a distraction to give the hobbits a chance to get to Mount Doom. And there's one scene I really love in it after the awesome speech Viggo Mortensen gives. The eye of Sauron is fixed on them, in just the look he gives in the eye's direction. He's like, yeah, after I cut through these orcs, I'm coming for you. We get a great scene, just a lot of tension. This is the moment where everything seems worth lost. Tolkien's eucatastrophe, a sudden turn, an unexpected turn for good. As Frodo and Gollum are wrestling for the ring, Gollum falls into Mount Doom with it, and the ring gets destroyed. In the effect when Barad-dûr falls and we see Sauron's eye pop like a bubble is incredible. We get the longest finale in movie history, very joyous, emotional reunions, and the heartbreaking farewell at the end where Frodo, along with Bilbo, Gandalf, and the last of the elves, sail to the Undying Land. This movie ends on a very bittersweet note, but so did the book, so it's only fitting that they kept that ending. Your heart literally breaks for Merry, Pippin, and especially Sam as they have to say goodbye to their beloved friends forever. And the movie ends on a just great note. This is one of the best movies ever made. It's my favorite part of the trilogy. And it's a masterpiece. A+ material. What are your thoughts? Tell me in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.